Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to spend as much time as I can talking to folks who had success at the Wrangler National Finals Rodeo. And the very first world champion I get to introduce following the NFR is the newly crowned world champion bull rider, the NFR average winner as well, Josh Frost from Utah. Josh, congratulations. This has got a given. I was just thinking back today on your history at the NFR. This has got to be special sweet to you to walk away from there with that world title.
Oh yeah, it's been a long time coming. Lots of hours of work went into it. It's like everybody's, oh, has it sunk in yet? Has it sunk in yet? And I'm like, it sunk in when I stepped off that 10th round bull. I don't know if
Yeah.
being so close 3 years in a row, like it's one of those ones in my mind. This didn't happen by accident, and we've been working and striving to being that world champion. Since I was a kid, but realistically believe in it since 2021, rolling into Vegas. And to have, I've had four really good NFRs and finished second in the world three times to where to roll in there this year and similar deal, had rode 7 out of 10, won a pile of money, and get the gold buckle was pretty cool to finish it off.
You and I were talking before I started this interview. Forgive me for being a little bit country, it does not suck to be Josh Frost right now. You just won $476,000, the NFR average, and a world title, and you're a new dad. I mean, it's kind of cool to be you right now, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's the life in Josh Frost is pretty good. It's been a heck of a road getting here, and it's kind of funny you say that on not even winning a reserve world champion 3 years in a row. Like, you want to be upset because you're so close to your goal, but I remember sitting in the locker room after the 10th round, like wanting to be upset and looking down and be like, man, I you know just won 180,000. It's kind of
Yeah.
hard to be too upset right now, and just added to that motivation to be like, we're so close. What can we do to get better to get that gold buckle? And it was kind of funny. You talk about the things going well in your life in general. Me and my wife Erica, we married in 2021. Well, we roll into the NFR. That was my second NFR and came out the average champ. So that was kind of cool. The year I got married, I won the average. And then we roll, 3 years in the future, and had a baby girl in August. So the year I have my baby girl, we win the average and win the world. So getting
Yeah.
married and having a baby kind of correlated to good things happening at the NFR for me. So
Yeah. What have you looked back and thought about what you accomplished this year at the National Finals Rodeo? You rode 7 out of your first 8. The last 2 got you, but you had the average locked up after go round number 9. I guess truth be known, we may have made you the world champion a little prematurely on the Cowboy Channel. There was that weird scenario with ground money where if Cooper would have been the only one to ride on Saturday night, he could have caught you. But all in all, I thought you had a really, really good NFR. How did you feel about it, Josh?
oh, I was dang sure that I've rode 7 out of 10 three times. This is the third time, but as of overall NFR performance, I feel like this was my best run from show up to finish of being able to stay focused and ride every night. Came down a little early in the third round, but just I felt like it didn't even phase me. We rolled right back in, went to knocking them down. Made the whistle both nights in the eliminator pen. That's kind of the night that you really need to show up, because then them are the bulls that they're in that pen for a reason. And um, and that was rolling into that ninth round. I kind of knew the scenario. I'd done the math that if I could win a little bit of money in that round, which meant needed to ride my bull, I would be the world champion. Well, long story short, Cooper James, Tristan buck off. So before I even nodded my head on that first bull, I knew I had the average wrapped up. That put me 2 bulls up with 1 round left. And first bull falls down right when the gate opens,
Yeah.
piles me up. And obviously, common sense, if you got a 0 on the board, you should take the re-ride. At the time, I think some people were thinking, oh, I probably don't need to take the re-ride. He just won the average. But I knew that if I rode that re-ride bull, I would officially be the world champion. Well, let it all hang out. Bull bucked me up, jumped ahead, switched directions, bucked me off 6.5 seconds. And when they pulled me over to the side, Jane, he's like, hey, we need to interview you. And She's like, you know why we're interviewing you? And I'm like, yeah, I won the average. And she goes, what? I no, they're telling me you've won the world. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, man, I didn't do the math exactly, but just kind of rough numbers. I kind of knew the ground money situation could, at that point I had a $97,000 lead, but I knew with the ground money being 108,000, Cooper sitting second in the average, that there was probably still a chance. Well, they announced me as the world champion, which, long story short, if you want to add a little pressure to a guy, announce him as the world champion early, and then see what happens to his phone for the next 24 hours, while the
Yeah.
whole time, I mean, I'm kind of wanting to be excited, and I didn't have time to run the numbers exactly while I get up there. And I mean, my family's excited. My dad's so glad you didn't leave it up till the first night, last night. And I kind of like, man, I think there's a small chance. So we do the
Yeah.
math real quick, and we're like, yep, this was premature. It was one of those ones. Cooper, the only guy to stay on, he ends up beating me by $3,000.
Yeah.
And so that put me in a situation to really try to show up, be locked in that next night to go, and which at the end of the day, you want to ride the last bull regardless. Like, a
Yeah.
lot cooler being the world champion when you go 90 points in the 10th round. And
It
there
is
was
what it
another
is.
snenario they missed, was TJ Gray had a chance too.
Oh, we did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, my brother had calculated that. He'd rode 4 out of 5. If Cooper James bucks off and TJ Gray is the only guy to stay on and he's higher than 85 points, he moves up to second in the average, puts him in the same position Cooper was prior to that. And so
there was a thing. None of this is about me,
little
Josh.
under the table.
Yeah, but there was the thing where I think after the night that I talked about, Eric Rogers and Paul Eves and the team roping being the only team that had roped all their steers, and then they took a no time. People started talking about the Steve Kenyon jinx on social media.
I heard it. I heard it.
Yeah.
Don't you know what Steve Kenyon talking about?
Josh, I missed that. Say that again.
Oh, I said I seen it all over the
Yeah.
Steve Kenyon curse. You didn't want Steve Kenyon hyping you up because it was bad luck.
Yeah, well, that's
That's something
I want to get rid of.
When Steve Kenyon starts talking about your pro rodeo fantasy pick, you're in trouble.
Yeah. That's something I need to get rid of between now and next year. I don't know how I do that. Tell me about your health, because you're actually having a little bit of surgery on your shoulder. You've been fighting an injury since August, and you just won the world title. You just won the NFR average, but you've been dealing with a shoulder issue for a while now, right?
Yeah, it actually even dates back a little further than August. I landed on it at San Angelo, and that was the first time I went and seen the orthopedic. Hurt pretty bad. I thought it was messed up and tore the rotator cuff then. Small tear, and Dr. Murray had just said, it's going to hurt a little bit, but if you still feel good riding, like that, it's something you might need to fix someday, but if it don't bother you, keep rolling. And so same thing, went to working out, physical therapy, and man, it felt great all summer, had a great summer. And then I got hung up pretty bad at Woodstown's Extreme Bulls in August, and tore it a lot further. And up until that point, it was still pretty stable. And after that, it was starting to want to slip out of the joint anytime I lifted my arm up. And it was my riding arm, which that actually makes it better because it didn't hurt while I rode. When my hands down in the rope, I have no pain. It was bucking off or even making the whistle and getting away from them, crawling, or like I said, it's when it gets above shoulder height is when the instability would start. And so we tried to compete a little bit after August, was having some difficulties with it, and was similar deal. At that point, had said got 2 opinions from 2 different orthopedics, and they're both like, yeah, shoulder's unstable. You need to get it fixed. Just a matter of time of when you're going to do that. And so, but through the course of doing physical therapy and all sorts of stuff, I had it as good as you could possibly get it going into the finals, and I ended up being able to get on some it was feeling good enough. I got on some practice bulls in November and was dang sure I knew I had 10 of them in me for the NFR. So
Yeah. How long after the surgery is are you gonna be on the sidelines? Do you think? Any idea?
he said 6 months, kind of roll through it, and middle of June we'll be back full steam ahead. So
They told Tyler Waguspach he was going to be 6 months. He was back in 6 weeks, but I mean, what the heck? You're not a steer wrestler, so who knows? This was an interesting year, Josh, because of the a great group of guys that qualified for the NFR. What, 5 first-timers, 4 of you that had been there last year, and that group of 6 guys that hadn't been there in a while. I think 2021 was the most recent. This was really an interesting group of guys and an interesting year, I thought, in the bull riding.
oh yeah, it was. They say it's the turning of the table. You see it every couple of years where the younger guys come up, but we had an outstanding group of actual rookies
Yeah.
that were 18, 19 years old. And then you had another group of guys that had rode good for 2 or 3 years, fought some injuries, and fought, TJ Gray, Jace Trostclair, who really broke through. And then it was cool seeing some of the older veterans that have been struggling with some injuries for 2 or 3 years. Your Tyler Bingham, Dustin Bouquet, who freaking, have rode good enough to get there since their last qualification, but just hadn't been able to stay healthy. And it was one, on on paper, I would like to think I was the favorite to win the world going in there, being the 3-time world reserve world champ. And you're missing Stetson Wright, Kai Hamilton, Sage Kimsey, the only 3 guys that have beat me. But it was one I was very well aware going in there that it was not going to be easy, because it's, especially with them rookies, like there's always rookies. Cooper James was the one. Like he rode lights out. And the cool part about this NFR is everybody made the whistle, but Wasey, Shala, and Jeter didn't ride maybe as good as they did all year, but they still had a good showing. But I very much knew that there was no going to be, hey, just because you've done good the last 3 years here, that they aren't going to get, they don't give away no.
Yeah. Josh, let me ask you about, have you ever, in your mind, do you ever go back to your very first NFR? And I forget, you either got bucked off all 10 or you rode like 9 out of 10. You didn't win any money. How big a learning experience was that? Are there still some things that you can take even from that year that now apply to what you're doing today, now as a 3-time reserve world champion and now as a 2-time average winner and a world champion bull rider?
Oh yeah, it's I had to laugh. I don't know if anybody heard Dean Thompson's world champion interview. He had a rough NFR his first time. He talked about, yeah, I pretty
Yeah.
much just had to delete last year's NFR from my mind and
And grow a new brain, he said.
grow a new brain. And there was a little bit of that rolling into the 2021 NFR. I did buck off all 10 at that first NFR. I rode my 9th round bull, and we literally jumped the clown barrel. He ran
That's
off,
right.
jumped the clown barrel. I was 65 points. I was all right. It was the night the spinner pin was out. I'm sitting 9th in the round, and I'm like, you got to take the re-ride. Take the re-ride. Re-ride bucks me off. And then I went ahead and finished it off by bucking off the 10th round bull, just to, wanted to stay perfect with that buck off streak. But it was dang sure that there's 2 ways to look at an NFR like that. Like, no, I didn't deserve to make it, and let it take a big shot at your confidence. But it just really fired me up to get back there, and I knew that wasn't going to define my career, was making the NFR and not making the whistle. But we rolled into the 21 NFR, and I bucked off the first 2 bulls there, and it was like, holy cow, like it's happening again. And turned it around in the 3rd round, and then from there we went to knocking them down. But that's the cool part about the NFR and making it multiple times. Like you expect it to be the same, but it's not. Every NFR is different. Every NFR has its own challenges. And the cool part about this being my 5th one is, like, I have all those years of experience and know how to deal with the mental side and the mental challenges that arise at the NFR that you don't have to deal with during the regular season.
Has there been discussion in your family, Josh? I'm being a little bit nosy here, but the Frost name is back on top of the world in the bull riding. Joe was so good. He never won a world title, but he was so good. Your brother, you are the second cousin of the great Lane Frost. Has that come up much in your since you got home and since the National Finals Rodeo came to an end?
Oh, a little bit. I mean, first, I think even the PRCA went ahead and played off of it a little bit. Showed Lane winning the NFR the year he did, and me matched up. Like it's pretty cool to continue the legacy. Like we live, breathe, and eat, sleep bull riding in the Frost family, and even that was Joe never won a world title, but me winning the world title was as close to him winning it. Like I don't think a lot of people realize how much he has to with my bull riding. Like he's my coach, like him and my dad. But my dad's been my number one coach since I was a kid. But you want to talk about somebody that's took bull riding coaching to the next level. Like Joe's is invested into teaching bull riding now as he was as he was at being a great bull rider. And like I said, through the course of these injuries and stuff, like he's been the person that I'm like, all right, I can't get on as many practice bulls as I used to. What can we do now to be prepared for the finals? And through the course and with drills and reviewing videos. And like I said, that was how my NFR went every morning. I was on the phone with Joe for about an hour talking about my ride the night before, talking about the bull I had drawn tonight, what little critiques we needed to make, how the bull was going to feel, where I needed to be, what it was going to take to show up and dominate every night.
I forget who I was talking to, Josh, but somebody told me during I cannot remember who it was. Somebody whose opinion I very much respect said point blank, if Josh wins this thing, it's something that his brother can legitimately share in because he has had so much to do with Josh's success.
Oh yeah, it was. Joe was just as excited as me, and he's funny. We got good, we hassle each other all the time, and that was always the joke that Joe would have never rode bulls if it wasn't for me. When I was 4 years old and he was 7, and so he was about to start riding. Dad had built a metal chute, gets the Holstein little dairy calf, bottle calf, gets it loaded. Well, Joe starts crying. All of a sudden, he decided he didn't want to be a bull rider. 4-year-old Josh is back there, and he's like, hell, if he won't do it, I'll ride.
I'll do it.
So I get if I get on that Holstein calf, and my dad was going to hold my belt loop. Well, when the gate opens, my dad trips and lets go of me. Well, I ride the calf 7, 8 jumps out there and hit the ground, and I'm kind of bawling. And Dad goes, "Look how far you rode it." And I kind of look around, I'm like, "Holy cow, I did pretty good." My old chest pops out, and then all of a sudden, after I did it, Joe's like, "Yeah, if Josh did it, maybe it's not so hard." And that was funny. After I won the world, back there we're getting the gold buckle, and Joe's like, I'm kind of joking, but now that I see that you've done it, I'm kind of thinking, I could probably crack back out and win the world. It can't be too hard if Josh done it.
Oh, that's funny. That's a great story. Thanks for sharing that with me. I'd never heard that story before. What's in the water in the state of Utah, Josh? Dean Thompson wins the world in the bareback riding. Of course, you got Frost and Wright, so that helps. Ryder Wright wins the bronc riding. Josh Frost wins the bull riding. In the bull riding, Josh Frost finishes first. Hayes Waite finishes second. Cooper James finishes third. There's something going on in Utah.
And you're missing, it didn't necessarily win the world, but Cash Raw was the average champ in the steer wrestling. And I think he was second in the world.
Yeah, he was. I got an interview that Ted Harbin shared with me, and it was with Dean Thompson. And he told Dean, because Dean and Cash are both from a little tiny wide spot in the road at 250 people called Altamont, Utah. And Ted told Dean that Cash had won the average in the steer wrestling. And I swear to God, Dean was more excited about Cash Robb winning the steer wrestling average than he was about Dean Thompson winning the average in the world in the bareback riding. I guess they're neighbors. They live like a mile apart.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's called the I'm from about 40 minutes from where Dean and Cash are from, but this little part of Utah, they call it the Uinta Basin. There's an accumulation of a bunch of super small towns, and then Vernal, Utah, Roosevelt, Utah, like are the, you know, if you need to go buy something, them are the towns we go to. And
Got it.
so it was pretty cool, even especially since we've been home, the community support from Roosevelt, Vernal, just all of the Uinta Basin, they've had us parading through town on fire trucks and stuff. But it's technically we're all from different towns, but the Uinta Basin is kind of considered the middle of nowhere to Utah, and to have three average champs and two world champs all from that specific area has been pretty cool for the community. Um and then, like you said, not to stray off from your question and talk about our small little area, but just the water in Utah alone, we obviously the rights are outstanding and dominate. But you roll over there to the bull riding, and you got Hayes Waite, Cooper James,
Yeah.
just road lights out. Cooper was, like I said, true rookie there at the NFR, 19 years old, and just a testament to putting yourself around the right people. Not saying Cooper didn't. Cooper probably could have done it by himself, but he put himself in those circles of, he came to our house last fall, was getting on practice bulls with me, and then Cooper rides broncs really good too.
Yeah.
And so when he was in high school, he'd been to several of Lefty Holman's bronc schools, started hanging out with Lefty, got hooked up with Clayton Sellers, who's married to Lefty's sister. Well, this winter, Cooper was looking for a traveling partner. Well, pretty quick, him and Clayton are going together, and it's just like you surround yourself with champions. It helps, and that was Cooper spent 2 months in California before the NFR getting on practice bulls with Clayton, and you talk about a rookie rolling there to the NFR and riding like a pro. He dominated.
I want to see the video. Cooper told me something on a show that I was doing during the NFR about getting on practice bulls, and Lefty was the bullfighter. He said he kind of just waved at him, but I want to see the video of that, because I'm curious how good a bullfighter Lefty Holman is.
The videos I seen, there was Lefty was doing a lot of running and wasn't real close to the bulls, but they did a good job at not having too mean a practice bull, so nobody was getting mucked out. But it looked like quite the operation down there in California.
You talked about Cooper. I want to ask you about three other guys, if I can. Wasey and Jeter. Wasey Charlotte, Jeter Lawrence. Wasey kind of a slow start, but boy, when he got going pretty good. Jeter Lawrence went around early. The quietest, when you stick a microphone in Jeter Lawrence's face, he's really quiet. Is he one of those guys you can't shut up when you're not like interviewing him? That kind of stuff. What's he like?
No. Jeter in the locker room is about like Jeter on the interview. He's finally warmed up a little bit, but that's the joke is always, oh yeah, Jeter over there, you just can't get him to shut up. And he said 7 words all year round, but just the genuineness, most cowboy little dude you've ever seen, and just gritty. Like he's 120 pounds, and you want to talk about somebody that can make a bull look rank, it's Jeter, and can ride the bad ones. That's the round he won was in the eliminator pin on a bull of DNH's that bucked off every guy in the PBR all year round, and Jeter just rode him like he could have ate a cheeseburger while he was up there. And Wasey's the same way. Wasey's a little more outspoken than Jeter, but just a genuinely good kid, freaking gritty cowboy, puts out the effort every time. And similar deal, the NFR is tough. When things start going bad, things go bad. Jeter had 2 or 3 bulls on paper I thought he would ride easy, and bulls jumped out there and went the opposite direction. He was struggling a little bit away from his hand early on, and those 2 or 3 bulls he drew that were supposed to go into his hand, suckers jumped out there, followed the gate around away from his hand.
Yeah.
But sure enough, we roll in there to the 8th round, and Wasey gets it figured out. Both the bulls he rode were away from his hand, and he dressed them up and made them look pretty.
Yeah. Let me ask you about one more of your colleagues in the bull riding while we're at it. If Hayes Waite figures out to ride more than just the 10th go round, he won the 8th round too, if I remember right. He's won the 10th round 2 years in a row this year for $108,000. I admit that I have become a ginormous Hayes-Waite fan. I just like him personally. I love it when he gets tapped off on a ball. He's going to be a force, I think, isn't he, Josh?
Oh yeah, and he was one that I hate that his NFR started so rough. But he was a guy during the regular season that really came into himself. I think me and Hayes were the only two. He rode a higher percentage of his bulls this year than I did. I think he was
Yeah.
52% and I was like 51%. But he was a guy that really came into his own this year and like got consistent and was leading the world at a certain point there towards the end of the season. And like I said, it just NFR started a little rough, and it took him a minute to get the ball rolling. But when he gets it, and that's the cool part. Every year you go there, you learn something new, and look for him within the next year. I see it happening next year. Be one of those guys that's riding 50% plus at the NFR.
Josh, you're going to have surgery on your shoulder. You told me you're supposed to be out for 6 months. Is there, in an odd way, a sort of a blessing there, because that's a lot of time you get to spend at home with that baby girl that you had a couple months ago?
Oh yeah, it's one of them ones I say everything happens for a reason, and even me hurting the shoulder in August was, I slow entering down to where I was at least home 4 days a week. We had a induction scheduled for a Monday, planned on me being there. Well, shoulder gets hurt. Long story short, I was supposed to be in Austin, Texas on that weekend. Well, Erica goes into labor on a Sunday morning, and it was just like I wouldn't have been there if my shoulder wasn't hurt, and that was something I very much was. I wanted to be my daughter's birth, but it was also like Erica understood the importance of me going to those rodeos and finishing the season and stuff, and that happened for a reason. And that's something I take very serious. Like, I love riding bulls, but at the end of the day, that's the second most important thing in my life, between being a good husband and being a good dad. And I was very blessed as a kid growing up to have a great dad that was there for everything I ever wanted to do, and that's something that I want to be able to do for my daughters, is be there for her for anything and everything she does. And so it's not excited to get the shoulder fixed, but I'm not going to be mad to be stuck home for 6 months with my wife and daughter. So
yeah. Josh Frost is going to be a great dad. He is already a great champion, and he is going to be a great world champion. We won't see you for a few months, but think of it this way, Josh. If you take 6 months off, that means everything that hurts on your body will have a chance to heal. And you ride bulls for a living, so I'm assuming there's more than just your shoulder that bothers you. So it's all got a chance to heal up over the next few months.
Yep. Well, I gotta say is middle of June. Watch out. Josh will be coming in fired up. The 2 months before the NFR I took to get the shoulder feeling good, that was the longest I've went without competing or getting on a bull since March of 2020. And so, and like I said, it wasn't 4 weeks in. I was like, holy cow, I was already craving them. And so I can't imagine 6 months in that it's look out when I'm ready to enter.
Last question. Is this going to affect, like, I'm assuming you won't be bulldogging steers with this going on. You told me once upon a time, I forget what injury we were talking about, but you had something going on, and roping calves actually was a pretty good therapy for you. Are you going to, you've won the Linderman Award 4 times. Will you be able to do any of that other stuff, or is it all out?
I would guess it's probably going to be like listening to the rehab protocol. Like, I think 5 months I can lift 60 pounds. And so probably not going to push anything coming back, but I would guess the month of June, I'm going to be able to get in the practice pen and the calf roping some, and dang sure look for me to qualify for that Linderman again. I was just short this year. I think I won 860 in the team roping and 600 in the steer wrestling. Had my calf roping money.
Right.
And I'd been team roping because I'd been having some, I'd hurt my back this winter, had a herniated disc and some stuff. So I was a little nervous to steer wrestle. Well, when I hadn't been getting my money, I was having a hard time getting met up with my team roping partner, Chet, in the team roping. So I was like, man, all right, let's enter the steer wrestling. And I'd enter the steer wrestling at Grace, Idaho, won third place there, won 600. And I was entered up in a few more. And that weekend was when I tore the shoulder.
Got
And
it.
so kind of put a kibosh on the whole timed event sided deal. And that was kind of where the whole talk came in. Like, okay, we've won the Linderman Award before, but we've never won the world. Let's put all our cards in the basket to go be the world champion and quit stressing this other stuff for a little bit.
Well, guess what? You're the world champion. Congratulations. Josh, I always appreciate your time. Congratulations on everything. And get healthy. Merry Christmas. And we'll look forward to seeing you sometime between now and the Reno Rodeo. You'll be back and putting your rope on a bull and getting ready to defend that world title.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Josh. Got it. Thank